Hey guys, welcome back to No Casuals. We are back after a long layoff. Luke, tell us what you were up to while we were gone.
So I actually was on a service trip all the way in the Caribbean and for 2 weeks. So I was gone for a while. Unfortunately, I missed 308. I missed a couple fight nights, so I feel like I'm behind right now, and this is a good way for me to get back on top. And yeah.
And that's not really what matters. What matters is that you're here now. We're ready to go. First off, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what's in the news. Shavkat Rakhmonov was booked against Bilal Muhammad and then unbooked against Bilal Muhammad, and Bilal Muhammad had a toe injury. If you see the photos, they're really messed up. They're real
They're
graphic.
messed up.
Who do you think Shavkat will fight next? Will it be Bilal? Will it be someone else at 310? What do you think?
So well, at 310, he's not going to fight Bilal. I don't I My dream is that he doesn't fight. I want that fight to be pushed back. Now I know that Colby, Usman both called him out. And Shavkat tweeted out, he was like, these are empty call outs. He kind of called them and he was like, listen, you guys say all this shit, but you're scared to fight. And you know, I don't know what they're gonna do. I think the most deserving is I mean Sean Brady deserves it. Jack Della, fuck, I always mess up his last name. But
Madeline.
he deserves it. And the Colby, like I don't really think so. Usman, I don't think so, but I feel like if they were to put him against someone, it's gonna be Usman.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense too. Speaking of 310, how do you feel about Kyle Sakura getting a title shot in his UFC debut?
I mean, we talked about this last time. Like, I don't know how to feel about it. I think that's a little silly, but in terms of like that division, it kind of makes sense. You got your top contenders, Royval Moreno, already kind of in a weird situation where Royval is like he already lost to Pantoja twice. So what are you supposed to do? And Moreno, it's just like I don't know. So if Pantoja wins, I want I guess I want Cara France, but he did lose to Moreno, so like I don't know. He has momentum now coming off a win. If Segura wins, like Royval, I guess, because he did just beat Tyra, and that's a huge win because that guy was a prospect, man.
Yeah,
So
and he was
yeah, I guess
Tyro was supposed
that's
to be
what
the
I'm
future of the
thinking.
division, and Royval cracked him. But you got to think Alexandre Pato is 5-0 against Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval.
Yeah, so like I just can't see them do it. If they were to do it, I think they give it to Royval, but I feel like Pantoja has him figured out to the fullest extent.
I completely agree. I think that there's very few exceptions to the time where you get a title shot immediately. I don't think that Oscar should have gotten the title shot, full transparency, but I do think that he should have gotten at least a title eliminator because that division is completely cleared out. There are some great prospects on the bottom of the top 15, but you look above six, everyone's fought Pantoja and everyone's lost to Pantoja. He's one of the best in the world.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the future a little bit. One more card in advance, 311. Looks like it's going to be at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. Looks like Islam Makhachev will be headlining against Arman Tsarukyan. That's a rumor, but it seems like it has been pushed by both Arman and Islam's camp. It seems like that is the fight to make. What do you think about that fight? How does it go? And do you think it's the right fight to make it lightweight?
Yeah, it's what I don't think you're gonna find someone who's disagreeing that that's not the fight to make at lightweight. It's by far the most interesting and most necessary fight to make. I mean, Arman stylistically is pretty similar to Islam, and that's the most competitive fight I think we've seen at lightweight in a long time. And I'm excited for it, especially at the new Intuit Dome. I think that's gonna be sick. I think that arena, the atmosphere is gonna be amazing. And that's the perfect fight. I mean, I don't have any bad comments on that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's great. It's number one contender, the true number one contender against the current dominant
True number
champion.
one.
The last time they fought, it was a very close fight, but they both improved so much. There's so many question marks. There's so many things we need to know. I think it's a great fight. I think it's the fight to make.
Yep.
So, for those of you unfamiliar at home, we have a segment on our podcast here called Fact or Fake, lightning round. Fact, fake, one sentence. I give you a prompt, Luke. Luke, you give me an answer, and I have the right to tell you if you are wrong or right. Okay? Sounds good?
Yep, sounds good.
Let's do it. First on Fact or Fake, Hamzat Chimaev has jumped over Sean Strickland for a chance to fight Dricus du Plessis.
This is a fact, and it's not just me saying this. I think Dana White confirmed this. In the press conference, he even said, like, we're considering Kamzat over Strickland, and I think he's more deserving. I mean, we've seen Strickland fight DDP, and we've seen his last fight, and neither of them were super interesting. I know he claimed a win over DDP, but I didn't think he won, and I think that Khamzat deserves it more. I mean, he just choked out what many people thought Whitaker would run through him, and I thought that. So yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think fact-wise, historically, you're a little off. DDP did in fact beat Strickland, but Strickland did beat Costa afterwards. Um, However, the fight with DDP was very close. Lots a lot of fans asking questions. I get why they would push for a rematch, but at the same time, Strickland cannot come out after losing to Duplessis and fight the fight he fought against Costa. You can't get that and expect a title shot. Hamza Chimaev showed that he's more entertaining, he's more ferocious, and he's more aggressive, and that will make a great fight for Duplessis. I completely agree with you. Next factor, fake. Anthony Hernandez showed that he's ready for a top five opponent with his win over Michel Pereira.
Um, so I think that's a fact. I don't like top five, yeah, maybe Imavov. But I think that's a fact. I mean, Pereira is he's a scary dude, and that's a big win for him, and I think that's a fact.
I completely agree. I think Imavov is perfect matchmaking. I completely am in tune with you there. Next up, Ilya Topuria is going to be a bigger star than Conor McGregor.
So I have to. I'm not gonna say he's not a big star, but bigger than Conor McGregor, I think that's fake. I don't think that there's gonna be someone with more star power in the history of the UFC. Now, I'd be love to prove wrong than Conor McGregor. Like on his prime, I don't think anyone can beat that. Ilya, he does have like the whole Spain population behind him, and if the UFC goes to Spain, like that's gonna be an incredible time. That's gonna probably boost his star power. Whoever they put him against, that's gonna boost his star power a lot. He's got the Georgia, just like Marab. But I don't think he can be bigger than Conor McGregor, and he's gonna reign for a long time, but I don't think he'll be bigger than him.
I see. This is where I completely disagree. I've been saying this for years. I've been saying Topuria is the next guy. Ever since he beat Bryce Mitchell, I've been saying Topuria is the one to watch for the UFC, and I'll tell you why. He speaks three languages. He's from three countries. Fluent English, great trash talk, great charisma. Everyone loves to hate him, just like McGregor. That's one. Two, he speaks Georgian, first ever Georgian-born champion. Third, he speaks Spanish. The entire Latin American continent, bar Brazil, speaks Spanish, and Belize speak Spanish. Spain speaks Spanish. The entire country of Spain is rallying behind him. He's already a big star. He's gained a million. He gained a million Instagram followers after beating Volkanovski, and gained an extra 800,000 after beating Holloway, who just, mind you, came off of the greatest knockout in the history of the sport. The sky's the limit. He's only what 25 and he's undefeated his career. Who's gonna beat this guy at featherweight? Who's let's you know what? Let's stay on the topic of featherweights. Let's talk about Lerone Murphy, who also fought at 308. No one is beating this guy at featherweight, but Lerone Murphy might be the closest thing to it because Lerone Murphy just beat Danny Ige at 308. He's still undefeated. Is he the most underrated prospect at featherweight, or is there other names that come to your mind?
I don't think. I think that that's a fact. I think he is the most underrated featherweight. Just because this guy doesn't have any losses. Like no one's talking about that. And he needs to be in the conversation. I don't know who his next opponent should be, but he got rocked against Ige, and like he came back from that, and that was impressive to see because Ige's a legit guy, and we saw how he did against Lopez. I think that's an impressive win for him. I think he's underrated, and I think that that's a fact.
I completely agree. I mean, Steve Garcia to me is the most underrated featherweight in the UFC, but I think Lerone Murphy's a close second. I can't hate on that. Let's talk about the most easiest. I'm going to feed you this question. I'm going to
Mm.
completely lead you on here. Let's talk about the easiest fact that there is on this list that I'm looking at right now. Magomed Ankalaev should get the next title shot. Is that a fact or is that fake?
That's a fact. I think he
That's a
should have had
fact.
the title shot. Yeah, it's as simple as it gets.
That's a fact. He's beat everybody. His last loss was in 2017. It's a fact. It's a fight that makes me really excited as someone that likes complete mixed martial arts to see what Fajeda can do against a true grappler that also has a striking ability. Should be interesting. Let's see how it goes. Next up on Fact or Fake, Aaron Blanchfield should fight the winner of Valentina Shevchenko versus Manan Fior.
Um, so I guess to me it depends who wins. If Shevchenko wins, I'm okay with that. But and I guess I'm okay with it either way. But in the end, like sure, it's a fact. Um, it's not something that interests me. You know?
I see. I disagree. I think it's fake. I think Blanchfield is still shaking off the loss to Fior
Yeah,
that she got at home in Atlantic City, New Jersey, that we were in attendance for. One of the most disappointing main
it
events in the
was.
history of the sport, especially in the modern era. It was a terrible fight. Fior played with her the whole time, and Blanchard showed nothing. Now, look, I've got a lot of love for Blanchard. She's a great fighter. She's young. She's got tons of potential, tons of star potential. But I would like to see her fight maybe a Macy Barber, maybe an Alexa Grasso, and
Yep. Yeah.
fully cement herself as the number one contender in the way that Fiora did by fighting Blanchard in the first place. Fact or fake? Brandon Ritter can become a UFC champion one day.
One day. Um, See, I don't know. Do I see him beating guys like Kamzat? Do I see him beating DDP? Not really. That's who I see might hold the belt in the next era of the UFC. So I'm gonna go with fake.
I would agree. I think it's fake. He's 34. He just went life and death with Jared Mearshart the third, a man who Hamza Chimaev knocked out in 30 seconds. I don't see him doing too hot in the UFC. I think we see something like a Michael Venom Page. He climbs to the top of the
Yeah.
rank, the bottom of the top 15, and kind of hangs out there for a little bit. Little too late, you know.
Yep.
Finally, let's look ahead a little bit to this Saturday. If Stipe Miocic beats John Jones, he will become the UFC GOAT. Fact or fake?
Um, Simply fake. I think that John Jones isn't the UFC GOAT. I think Mighty Mouse is. Um, And uh yeah, I think a win against Jones is the most impressive thing we would have seen all year in the UFC. Everyone's counting him out, and to shut down Jones in this moment against someone that he probably is going into this fight thinking, I can run all over Stipe, it'd be amazing. Does that make him the UFC GOAT? I don't think so.
I see it. This is where I disagree with you. I think the thing that makes John Jones not the GOAT to me is the constant cheating that John Jones has imposed. We haven't seen that with Stipe Miocic. I think Stipe has now 2 wins over Daniel Cormier, a win over Fabricio Verdum, who is, in my opinion, the second most underrated heavyweight of all time. He's got wins over Ngannou. He's got wins over a bunch of guys at heavyweight. He's widely considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. I would say he's probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. So to put him against a guy like John Jones, who everyone thinks is leagues above him right now, and to have him win, go out and shock the world, I think he'd have to be the GOAT. I don't think there's a way around that.
Okay, yeah.
All right, our last factor fake prompt for our next segment. UFC 309 is the worst Madison Square Garden UFC card of all time, top to bottom. What do you think?
So I'm gonna go. Not to imply that it's not a good card because it's okay. It's a fact. Just comparing it to the past two UFC events there. I mean, you had Pereira versus Prohaska, which was there was two title fights. They had the interim heavyweight too. That was amazing. 281 Pereira versus Adesanya.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that was like, bro, both of those are amazing.
Before that
I
was 268, which is Usman Covington too.
Yeah. So it's just like,
Three title fights. So,
yeah, that's
you know.
insane. I think that for so long they stacked MSG, and maybe they were in a weird situation here where they had, 307, 308, both being so stacked where but then again, I don't know. I think it's a fact. I think it's the worst MSG card of recent memory.
Yeah, I completely agree. If this was a T-Mobile Arena, end of the year card, I would be okay with it. 311, that would make sense. But Madison Square Garden, they always bring out the stops.
This
To
is New
add,
York. What
it's
are
New
they
York
doing?
City. The last three events have been three of the greatest cards of all time. I don't know how we can go out there and say that John Jones is good enough to headline a card with no backing. And his only
Yeah.
back is Charles Oliveira, who we'll talk about later. But you've got two guys that shouldn't be fighting each other in the main event, two guys who shouldn't be fighting each other in the co-main event. It doesn't make much sense to me, but
And it's funny because in all the embeddeds, Dana White, everyone talks about how MSG is, the greatest arena. This is the world's greatest arena. We need to like stack this card, whatever. And they're trying to imply this narrative that 309 is so stacked, which is disappointing because I think the arena deserves better, and I think the fans definitely deserve a little bit better.
for those of you that don't know, while Luke looks up how to do that while you're recording on a Zoom
Yeah.
call, I will explain Ted's takes. If you don't know, Luke's little brother Ted is one of the biggest casuals in the history of the sport. And as you know, this is no casuals. So technically, we have a no Ted policy on this show, but we'll give him 1 minute every episode to tell us his juiciest, most disrespectful, diabolical hot takes, and he will see if the experts actually agree with him. So this is Ted's Talks.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Ted's Talks. I'm going to get straight into it and give you guys one of my hottest takes for this Saturday's event at UFC 309 in New York City. So let's narrow it down to our co-main event here. These are two fighters who are both so hungry for a win, but especially Michael Chandler. He's been out of the conversation for a while now, and he waited for that McGregor fight that never ended up happening. So it's going to be good to see how he's improved and if he's still worthy of fighting these top-tier contenders. If Chandler wants to come out victorious on Saturday, he's got to do a couple of things. He's got to put pressure on Oliveira early in the first round and execute the stand-up game because Oliveira's wrestling is so elite, so Chandler has to shine there, and that's how we can come out with a victory. So my official prediction for this fight is that Michael Chandler knocks out Charles Oliveira in the first round. I'm so excited for this one, and that's my take. Back to you guys.
Hey, he did a good job.
He's a natural. He's better.
He's a
I'm a
natural.
major in this. He's better than me at this, man. This is ridiculous. You almost had me believing him, but unfortunately, that is fake. That
That
is
is
not a
fake. That is
fact, Ted.
fake.
Ted, you gotta realize the Muay Thai of Oliveira is better than the kickboxing of Chandler. The wrestling of Chandler is the only place where he is better than Oliveira. And Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is so good. He will sub you from anywhere. He'll sub you off his back. He'll sub you off his face. He'll sub you from any position on the earth.
And not just that, he also has he has knockout power. I mean, look how the last fight went. Look at the last fight went. And I think that what Chandler's going to do, he's going to rush him early. He's going to get caught. And I think is going to be the inverse of what Ted says. I see Oliveira winning this by either knocking Chandler down, then getting a quick submission, or just straight up flatlining him. I don't think that Chandler's going to win this fight. And I think that's a fake by Ted.
Now look, here's the thing. I was thinking about this extensively all day today. There's no better time than live on a No Casuals episode to reveal this, but No Casuals podcast is endorsing Charles Oliveira. We're not rocking with Michael Chandler this Saturday.
No,
We are rocking for Do Bronx, Charles Oliveira, Do Favela. We're rooting for the boy.
we're
So
rooting for the boy.
get out of here. Michael Chandler's a great human being. He was very nice to me when I met him briefly, but goodness gracious, we're rooting for Oliveira tonight. This is not leaving my shoulders for the rest of this podcast. This was a mistake already. My shoulders already hurt, but it's okay. It's okay because we're rooting for the Bronx.
And I'll be at the weigh-ins, and as soon as Oliveira steps on the scale, that's going to be a moment that I'm going to cherish, and I think that Teddy's going to change his mind right there.
I think so. I think the aura to
Yeah.
use
Oh yeah.
to use the lingo of the kids is just too
Oh yeah.
strong for a guy like Oliveira against a guy like Chandler doesn't have as much aura.
No, he doesn't. And he tries to though. He tries to. He really tries to. With all the Instagram see you at the top, it just doesn't compare.
Yeah, we will not be seeing him at the top this Saturday. We'll be seeing Charles Oliveira back in the win column. Now, look, we're talking about Charles Oliveira or Michael Chandler, whichever one comes out on top. Who is next? Is it Islam Makhachev or the winner of Makhachev Tsarukyan? Is it Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje? There's so many options. What do you think?
There's so many options. I know Max Holloway kind of said, or I think Oliveira expressed interest in versing Max Holloway, and I would love to see that,
They
man.
both did. Yeah, they
I
both
would
wanted.
I would absolutely love to see that.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I would love to see Dan Hooker too. I think that's a similar kind of matchup, and regardless of wins, both those fit. Now, going right to the winner of Islam versus Armin, I don't think that's smart. I think both those guys lose to whoever wins that, unfortunately. So I think that Max Holloway, Dan Hooker both make more sense.
I completely agree. I think the winner should fight Max Holloway. The loser should fight Dan Hooker because I'd still be fighting up
Okay.
with Dan Hooker in the
Yeah.
rankings.
Yeah.
That's my take. Let's talk about the main event. And let's be a little existential here. Does this fight even matter at all for legacy, for the belt, does it matter? Is it just two old legends going at it just for the fun of the audience? What do you think?
So I would argue that it does matter. For the legacy aspect. For Jones's legacy, this matters. He's versing someone, he's new to heavyweight and he's versing the heavyweight GOAT. I'm not going to pretend like this fight does not matter. As a legacy, him saying that he could have beaten the heavyweight GOAT despite of his age, maybe it means a little less that he's older. I still think that this matters. M- you know, them doing it for the fans. The fans, I mean, I've seen all the comments. The fans don't want this fight. This is Jones. Jones is in this separate kind of class where he says that, I'm only battling legends. I'm not battling up and comers. I'm not looking to fight Aspinall, which is ridiculous. It's like the rules don't apply to him, and I think Dana he agrees with that. He's like, I'm gonna let this guy fight whoever he wants. Which is a little silly. And I think yeah, so that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, here's my take. I'm actually completely okay with pretending that this fight doesn't matter because I don't think it really does. If you're John Jones, and I think John Jones is going to win. Because look, we're talking about this political science class at my college education. Timing is everything. Timing is everything if you want to build a country. And if you want to build a legacy, it's the same thing. Now, look, if this is 2016, 2017, John Jones before the Reyes fight, he's still good. He's still like 30 years old, and he wants to move up, fight Stipe. Oh yeah. Now tell me why. This is my conspiracy theory at work. Why in the world would John Jones have talks for 10 years about moving to heavyweight and not do it until right after COVID? What happened during COVID at the heavyweight division that John Jones may have been avoiding? I'll give you two words. Daniel Cormier. He was avoiding heavyweight DC. He was avoiding heavyweight Ngannou. He was avoiding Brock. He was avoiding all those guys because he wanted to go in at a time where the division would be weakest. And he was right. He fought Cyril Gane, a guy with no grappling experience, and made it look easy. And one of the most embarrassing title losses in the history of the UFC. Cyril Gane is still an afterthought to many fans, despite the fact that he's still ranked in the top three and will fight for the title next. But right now, with our timeline, you're not gonna fight Tom Aspinall, who's clearly seems like the best heavyweight in the world. You're gonna talk about legacy, and you're not gonna fight the best guys in the world. You're just gonna hold up a division for 2 years. That's not legacy.
That's
That's
not.
hurting your legacy. If
And I
anything,
think that, where does he stand? Like, let's say Jones wins. Like, Aspinall is just going to be the interim champion forever. What is this? I think that if Jones is serious about fighting Pereira after this, he should vacate that belt in some way and just give it to Aspinall because Aspinall deserves it. If you're going to duck Aspinall, he needs that belt. A duck is a loss. You're saying that you can't fight that person, and you're choosing not to. And kind of undermining his legacy is insulting to Aspinall. It's insulting to the fans too. I just don't see where I understand what he's doing and how cautious he's being because he's scared of Aspinall and it's clear.
yeah, and I mean that's what it is. It's just that from Jones' perspective, beating Aspinall is nothing for him, but neither does beating Miocic. I don't know why he continues to fight. There's no reason. He's in his eyes, he's already the GOAT, and he's always gonna be the GOAT. In the eyes of many fans, that's how it is. So look, there's no reason in particular why this should be happening. It doesn't make sense logistically. It doesn't make sense for anything. It doesn't. He should have vacated when he got injured, and they should have done this as a non-title 5 round fight. And I would have been much happier to attend because that felt ethical. This feels unfair to Tom Aspinall, who I'm guaranteeing you will be sitting cage side, ready to fight the winner on a moment's notice.
And
Let's
I hope that afterward Jones hands him the belt as a sign of respect. And even if he doesn't retire, what I said earlier, like if he goes on to fight Pereira, I think that Aspinall deserves that, and this is a moment for him to acknowledge, listen, I'm handing this over to the new generation.
look. You had me for a second, and then you used the words John Jones and respect in the same sentence. Those are not. Those don't usually go together. So I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll see an arrogant, angry John Jones win again, throw his title down, say, I won't even let you try to fight me, Tom Aspinall, just as a last FU, as he likes to do. Let's talk about the rest of this main card really quickly. Let's talk about Bo Nickel and Paul Craig.
Mm.
The all-time meme fight, in my opinion. Because if Paul Craig wins, it will be the funniest thing to have ever happened within the UFC octagon, in my opinion.
There's a lot of meme fights on this card, I'm not gonna
This
lie.
is a meme card.
This is a meme card. I mean, yeah, it is a meme card. There's so many upsets that could happen, and it's crazy. Like if Craig wins, you'll shut down arguably one of the most hyped up guys. I mean, Dana wants to hype him up. This dude was on the main event or the main card of 300. He's being forced into this position of greatness. And if Craig wins, that'll be impressive. Do I think Craig's gonna win? No. Now he's got a roster, a good roster. And he's beaten some impressive guys. Like he's a good fighter. But Bo Nickel wins.
I mean, and this thing is, I think Paul Craig is the hardest fight Bo Nickel has had.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
certainly. But I also think that Bo Nickel has looked really good in every fight, except for the Cody Rhodes fight where he didn't look great, but he still got it done. I think Bo Nickel's a workhorse. I think he's a great fighter. I think he's going to have to use a stand-up in this fight. I don't think he'll be able to wrestle Paul Craig. I think he'll be able to wrestle him. He won't be able to submit Paul Craig. I think
Yeah.
Paul Craig is too good on the ground. But I think Bo Nickel will be able to knock him out. I think Bo Nickel's striking is good enough that he will be able to find the spot in the way that so many fighters have against Paul Craig and put him to sleep. What maybe for the last time in the UFC because Paul Craig is on the doorstep right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one prelim fight before we go to the under the radar showcase. Chris Weidman's at Madison Square Garden. How do you feel about that? Do you think he should still be fighting after the Bruno Silva controversy, or do you think that it's time to see Weidman back against Eric Anders?
Um, I think he should have retired in Jersey. But this is another opportunity for him to retire. Though I know the crowd's gonna love it. I mean, as soon as Tom Petty starts playing when he's walking out, they're gonna love it. And I'm here for him getting one last win. Uh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope it's not another eye poke unsatisfying win for him.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Wyman looked good. What eye pokes aside, he looked good in his last fight. I mean, he
Yeah,
looked
he
like
looked good.
he was UFC caliber.
Yep.
He's never going to touch the belt again, in my opinion. But he looked like he was UFC caliber. I've seen him before. I've seen him since. Incredibly good person, great human. Rooting for him, hoping he wins Saturday. But I'm hoping this is the last dance. I'm hoping this is his retirement at home, big show. I think that'll be a great moment for the fans. I think it'll be reminiscent of the last time we saw a major retirement of the scale against Carlos Barza at 307, which brought a tear to my eye, to be honest. It was a very emotional moment. Let's talk about our last segment of the show, Under the Radar, where we talk about this time five prospects on this Saturday's card that not enough people are talking about, in our opinion. First off, let's talk about the Fighting Nerds, Mauricio Hufi. What do you think?
I love this guy, and he's a technical striker. Um,
Looking for glasses. I don't have any. I only have sunglasses. I need nerd glasses.
you do. You need the nerd glasses.
I need the nerd
Uh,
glass.
yeah, he's a scary dude, and I love that whole fighting nerds thing that they got going on with Kaio, and I saw they brought Jones into it, but this weekend at Vegas 100. Um, so yeah. I don't know. I think that he's gonna win, and I think he's a huge favorite. His opponent's coming off a loss in August, so I think it'll be an easy fight for him, and I think it's a way to show off his striking and really solidify himself as this really impressive up and comer.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Rufi's gonna make it a hometown performance. Everyone's gonna be rooting for him in the arena. He's already a big star. The whole team is, but him and Prates seem to have a special glue to the fans. John Silva, Bruno Brazil, Kai Bahia are all great, but they don't have the same sticking power, I don't think, as Rufi because of his crazy style. People are already comparing him to Conor McGregor. He's fought once in the UFC. Again, putting on for Brazil, I see a win. I mean, the Fighting Nerds, they look like unstoppable. They're the team of the year.
The other
I
team
think
of the
they're
year.
gonna win. Staying in Brazil, let's talk about our next prospect, Karina Silva. She's 4-0 in the UFC. She has three submissions. Her last fight was unanimous decision win. She's fighting Viviana Araujo. The UFC is poising this as the fourth fight on the main card to be a sort of a show out performance for her. Do you buy the hype yet, or do you want to see some more against a true veteran in Araujo this Saturday?
I'm buying the hype, and I'll further buy the hype if she wins. Araujo is coming off a loss, so I think that her time to shine. She's already 4-0 in the UFC. She's shown that she can do this kind of stuff, and against a ranked fighter like another ranked fighter like Araujo, I'm butchering that. Yeah, I think that
Araujo. Araujo. I
Araujo.
don't know. There's no A at the end. If it would be Araujo, if it was
It's tough.
A
It's tough.
A, it's weird. Araujo. I don't know. It doesn't
But
matter. Doesn't
yeah,
matter.
these two
She's gonna lose
Brazilians, they're
on
gonna throw
Saturday to
down.
Karina Silva, right?
What?
It doesn't matter. 'Cause she's gonna be done on Saturday. So I mean, here's my take. I think Silva is great. I think she is one of the better prospects in all of women's mixed martial arts right now. I think she's gonna find a sub. I don't think it's gonna be the most exciting fight of all time that the UFC wants it to be, but I think it'll be a good fight.
Yep.
Another prospect that, in my opinion, is probably the least talked about prospect on this card. Marcus McGee is fighting Jonathan Martinez. McGee is on a tear right now. He's killing it at bantamweight. So
He
give me
is.
do you think he's gonna win against a formerly highly touted prospect in Martinez, who just lost to Jose Aldo, or do you see, McGee making another statement defining performance like he has in his last four?
Yeah, I think he's gonna make this is I think this is his first ranked opponent. Um,
It is. It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is his time to shine, and I think that he's gonna make another statement. The last two fights he won both by KO. So if he were to do the same here against Martinez, that would be very impressive. Martinez is coming off that tough loss to Aldo, so yeah, I think he can do it.
Yeah. No,
And he's
I
not talked about, man.
neither of them, neither, and they're both really good ranked bantamweights. I mean,
Yeah,
McGee is not a ranked bantamweight yet, but he's at that level for sure, and his opponent absolutely is. I think that this is a clearly high stakes fight that's not getting talked about enough. It's kind of buried on the prelims right now. I think if that switch spots with Karina Silva, no one would complain. It's a great fight. I think we'll see some things get tested. I think that's a banger. We'll see what happens. Next up, for those of you that were not in the Caribbean, you might know this. For those of you that were, I'll explain. Janata Denise was supposed to fight Derek Lewis at UFC Edmonton. Got canceled day of due to an injury to Derek Lewis. Got rebooked for this Saturday against Marcin Tybura, a very different stylistic matchup for the former professional kickboxer who's now undefeated both in the UFC and in his professional career. Do you see Denise making a statement against his first ranked opposition? Do you think Tybura is going to turn back the clock a little bit?
I think he's gonna make a statement like all these guys. Like this card is so interesting because it has a lot of up and comers, especially on the prelims. I'm mostly on the prelims except for Bo Nickel. So like there's some meme fights, but there's a lot of prelim fights that I'm super excited for. This is one of them. This guy's 8-0. And for him to kind of bounce back from a shocker a couple weekends ago, like it's it's impressive, and I think he's gonna get it done.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think with the rankings getting shaken up a little bit, I think that Carl Williams is one of the best unranked prospects in the UFC, and Denise beat him decisively. He
Yeah,
really. So I think that Denise is going to look good. I think that Tybura actually will probably win because there's a massive skill jump between a guy like Williams and a guy like Tybura. We will see though. I disagree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. Another Brazilian. I'm going to be rooting for him on Saturday, but I do think with a mind over heart pick, I think I'll go with Tybura by submission. We will see. It'll be interesting. Lots of questions to be answered. Our last prospect of Saturday night, Oban Elliott, the Welsh gangster coming off a win not too long ago. What do you think about Oban Elliott at this stage in his career?
he's exciting. The past two fights have been really impressive. Both unanimous decisions, and he's facing a tough. Like, Hafez is tough. Like he's tough. He's coming off a win as well. It's an opportunity to prove himself. 11-2. I'm pretty sure he's undefeated in the UFC. So it's gonna be a good one. I don't know a lot about him, but I'm excited for him to prove himself to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit more about Oban Elliott's story. He's got a very inspiring story. One of these guys you can't help but root for. He's gonna get a big crowd in New York. I mean, the Welsh are like a cult. They flock. They're great. I love Welsh people. So it'll be a fun time this Saturday night for the Oban Elliott homecoming. I expect an Oban Elliott win. Hafez is good, but his last win was against Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall, who's also on this card, by the way, we have made the conscious decision to omit because, in my opinion, I don't think he's UFC level. Hafez is a legitimate good fighter. But Elliott has looked a step ahead. He looks like a guy that will be ranked in the future, maybe nearer than we think. We shall see Saturday night. With that in mind, we are now concluding No Casuals Podcast episode 2. Next time we won't wait a month, we promise.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week. That's right. And you know what? We make a special episode this weekend from the arena, from the Garden, Madison Square Garden, the UFC 309 special. Get ready. This flag will be making an appearance. Santa probably won't be making an appearance. Luke will be making an appearance.
I
We'll,
will.
we'll see you
Hey,
next time.
Ted will be making an appearance.
And Ted will be making an appearance. We will see him watch his picks crumble in real time. All right. Have a great week. We'll see you guys from the Big Apple. All right.
See you guys.